How are we doing now? We have audio now. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. What's up, Travis? What's up, guys? Sorry about that. I had a great intro. You guys should have heard it. It was amazing. What's up, guys? I am Rob. You missed my great intro. This is the Nocturnal Knockout. I hope you like our new graphics. Holy hell, do we have a ton to talk about tonight. What's up, Eddie? What's up, E? What's up, Travis? What's up, PM Conspiracy? What's up, Azan? Yeet, indeed. As I was saying before, I was rudely interrupted by my microphone that didn't work for some reason. Last week, we all told you, Jey Uso, his time is done. That match against Gunther, that was it. That was the end of his main event run. Main event, Jey Uso was supposed to be this piece of irony. And just when we thought we had it all figured out, WWE completely changed stuff up on us. The most star-studded Royal Rumble of all time. The Rumble that was loaded with main eventers, loaded with guys that had main evented multiple WrestleManias, loaded with guys that had titles, loaded with guys that didn't need a further credential. And there were only a few guys in the match that had never even won the dang thing. And certainly as the match went on and on, there was no way you thought Jey Uso was going to win the match. Hell, when it was down to the final two, you did not think Jey Uso was going to win the match. But he did. And he's going on to main event WrestleMania. So much to talk about, so many angles to get into from that match alone. We'll probably be able to do about like 3 hours just off of that match. I don't think we'll go 3 hours. We might. I got some fresh caffeine right here. There's some beer in the fridge. We can go all night if we need to go all night. I'm sure you guys have your opinions. Get them in on the chat as you guys have been doing. What's up, Valentin? How you been doing, man? Good to see you again. What's up, Azan? You're happy for Jay, but kind of backward booking. It's odd booking. This is strange booking. We're going to have to get into that. We're going to have to get into if we're going to accept this as a WrestleMania main event and what it's going to be. And then the fallout, because the peak of this match before the finish was not necessarily anything to do with Jey Uso or John Cena or a Paul brother. The peak of this match was CM Punk eliminating 2/3 of the Shield, only to be very quickly eliminated by said Paul brother. And we got curb stomps on the side. We had Punk run into Heyman. That was the peak of this match. That was the, oh my God, holy shit moment that we had until the result that had Jey Uso winning the Royal Rumble. And no post angles, nothing weird, no final boss, not the 31st man, none of that crap. Jey Uso is the men's Royal Rumble winner. Jey Uso has a main event shot, or at least a title match at WrestleMania. Now, what title is he going to challenge for? Tell me in the chat. So CB, you weren't insulted by Jay winning the Rumble? The worst women's number 30 entry. Don't even want to say its name. Can we pretend the women's Rumble didn't happen? Didn't care for Charlotte winning. And where was Randy Orton? Yeah, my pick of Randy Orton looked real well when the man wasn't even in the match. I really nailed that one. Yeah. So Eddie, you got Jay going after Gunther's title? And Azan's got Jay and Cody. We're going to get into it tonight. I think Jay winning gives WWE a bit of a path to clear up their main event just a little bit. I think it's a chance to do something with the Royal Rumble. It's a chance to do something with that side on Gunther's title if they go that way. But as Azan is pointing out, from a storyline perspective, from everything that's been built up, the title to be chased after, the title that matters, everything of consequence, that's Cody's belt. That is the belt that was on the line essentially in the Royal Rumble, despite what that little graphic in the corner would tell you, which, in case you haven't noticed, folks, we have new lower thirds and upper thirds graphics right here. You saw this morning, Ashley on the Kick Ash podcast, she had some new graphics. Nocturnal Knockouts got some new graphics. Got the 1TS logo up there. We got the brass ring media there. Got the handle for Blue Sky and Twitter, Rob's MV. So some of you guys over there tonight checking it out, go ahead and follow me on there. And of course, follow the brand. So let me put up what CB's got up there. So CB's first thing he's got up there. Jay wins the World Heavyweight Championship and Roman beats the shit out of him and takes it. I don't know if that, like, you're talking one night, that's what happened. I don't know if you build all of that up for him to just do that. Unless the plan is to turn Cody heel. So the Cody heel turn, I've been projecting from WrestleMania. I feel much less confident of that after tonight, but we have to figure out what Cody does. I will say this. If it's not Cody and Jay, which I think there's a pretty good chance that it wouldn't be Cody and Jay. But if it is Cody and if it's not Cody and Jay, I should say, all of the options are still open. All of the I think there was 3 people that we've been trying to figure out how they pair off. The 3 real main eventers, I would say, of the show for basically the last month it's CM Punk, Roman Reigns, and Cody Rhodes, and where they all land in the WrestleMania picture has really been the puzzle of the last couple of weeks and leading into this WrestleMania. And while we have some clear directions for those guys, we have some maybe parameters of where they're going to stick. We still don't really know because everything is on the table because nobody predicted Jey Uso to win this match. So all the prognostications, all the podcasts you listened to for the last 3 weeks, you could just throw all that crap in the trash because none of those predictions will have any weight to them now because nobody had this result. And I think if you want to say, did they do a good job of throwing you off the scent? I think they would absolutely done a great job of throwing you off the scent by having him win the most star-studded possible Rumble that you could have him win. So like Flair wins in 92, but that's not a shocker that Flair wins. We talked about it last week. Maybe Sid should have won, but that's not really a shocker. This to me, and it depends how they follow up on it, this is more analogous to Jericho back in 2001 at Vengeance, his crowning moment for years and years and years, talking about himself beating Austin and The Rock in the same night. It's kind of the same situation I feel like right now with Jey Uso tonight. Was a great swerve. It was a hell of a swerve. It wasn't a swerve from a booking perspective. It wasn't those weird Russo-y AEW style swerves. Cody versus John Cena, undisputed champion. The Matrix glitched. I do think the Matrix glitched. I mean, that has nothing to do with tonight, though. It's like Jinder beating Randy. Okay, no, it's on. No. This is unpredictable. Didn't really make sense, and I think going forward in the storyline, they're going to have to do a little bit of work to truly make Jey Uso a main event player. It's not like Jinder was a mid-carder. You know what? Let me clear that up. Jinder wasn't even a mid-carder. Jinder was a lower card wrestler that you never even really saw or considered, that was just suddenly really buff and took on Randy and beat Randy. If there's other analogies to mid-card guys, I think you can say Kofi is probably much more analogous. Kofi in 2019, a long-time tag wrestler that showed singles potential that people really wanted to get behind and eventually did. That is I think more analogous to that sort of coming out of nowhere. Or Eddie Guerrero, where the thing about Eddie Guerrero is you never saw him beating Brock. This is as shocking, I think, as Eddie beating Brock. This is on that level. And last week, I made the analogy that had Jay have beaten Gunther on the Saturday night's main event, that would have been the equivalent of him, of Eddie beating Brock. That was like a modern day version of that. And I think this is very close. This is as close of a result as you can get to that without it being completely ridiculous. Like, I understand from a booking standpoint and maybe for who you would want to main event WrestleMania and the general flow of the shows, you might say that, yeah, this came completely out of nowhere. But taken as a whole, Jay has been a guy that is generally towards the top of the card. So in that sense, it does make sense. But it's still devastating. It's still wild. I was fully ready, guys, and I'm sure you guys can relate to this. I was fully ready to sit in here and talk about the doldrums of the fact that Charlotte and John Cena had won these rumbles, like these two individuals that you hadn't seen on TV at all, say for one appearance on a Raw by John Cena. You had these two individuals that you hadn't seen at all walking out with the Royal Rumble victories. There's something about that felt very hollow. Not that I necessarily endorse Jay in this position. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But there was something to that. There was something to the fact, actually, I would say, of that big elimination sequence that happened whenever Punk was eliminated by Paul. It seemed like it was Cena's match, like that just set it up to be Cena's match, and quite honestly made the ending, from my vantage point, feel very uneventful. Even the way they went through that finishing sequence with Cena being kind of silly and pointing out there, all of that seemed to be set up for a very long, drug out Cena victory. I was already in my head thinking about, again, the Cody Cena main event, which we still may get. That is still very much on the table. I don't know, though. Is that what you want to see? What do you want to see? What is the people's main event at this point? Because again, I think so many things are up in the air. Is what's going on with the Seth Roman Punk trio, is that more important than the main event? Is that more main event than the main event? What do you make of the KO Sammy interactions tonight? That's something major coming out of this show. You had some showings by some younger wrestlers. Braun Breaker had himself some moments in this match. Penta looked very, very good. We got no Randy Orton either. Zero Randy Orton sightings. We had an AJ Styles comeback. Not a lot else in the men's rumble that was super, super surprising. Many of the surprises, I think, really count as something that we would have saw coming, like a Joe Hendry. Rock's making movies, still in other projects. He's not competing at Mania. He might make an appearance. Something went wrong with Drew McIntyre's elimination for the men's rumble. When Drew got to the back, he was screaming and cursing that someone had to get their moves. I don't know. I wouldn't read too much into that, Azan. They've got a lot of cameras backstage. They got a lot of people watching. A lot of that might be at work, especially with Drew McIntyre. Like they've done that before. Why dress in all black, doing nothing when running out during Cody and KO? Just to see waste, even if he wasn't actually interfering. The Sammy stuff having no payoff in the Rumble only made sense from the perspective of, like, you want to say from the match that you saw, the title match that he's just taken out. From that perspective, I think it would make sense, but it was a lot of buildup for him to have a fairly uneventful Royal Rumble. Logan Paul versus Punk at Mania. That's what you have, Eddie. I think you could build a hell of a storyline out of that. Even though Punk had, his 10-year absence, I think it's really a situation where you can argue, the ultimate dilettante in Logan Paul, the ultimate guy there for attention, who, according to some of Punk's ethos, you would say that was counter to. Like I thought Randy versus Logan was perfect in that way. Yeet, Austin, what's up? Sammy's on some kind of journey. Yeah, I think that would be successful. And obviously Punk feels so big right now. That's gonna be the track that Punk goes on is really interesting at this WrestleMania. Does Punk still main event WrestleMania? Is there still a path to get there? Because I got to ask you guys, and just tell me in the chat, is Jey Uso gonna be closing out night 2 of WrestleMania? I think that's the real question. Did Jey Uso win tonight to close out night 1, or is he going to close out night 2? And how does it affect like the larger storylines going forward? This is a journey that it seemed like Jay was on and it ended. According to generally how we think of wrestling logic, all this should have ended last Saturday. That was very much the chapter closer. Logan Paul being standing for Young Bucks. I mean, if the complete storyline was just how much he hated all those guys. You'd rather watch the 2016 Rumble on repeat? That's an oddly specific reference. So you think Charlotte gets night one? We'll see. It's just hard. It's hard for me to think that if Roman Reigns is gonna be on that show, he doesn't main event one of the nights. Like I have a hard time thinking you have Roman Reigns on that card and you do not have him close at least one of the nights of those shows. I would like to think it's the second night. The night one because Cody's the man unless Jane. Do you think the long burn? Do you think Jay was a long-term plan? I don't think Jay was a long-term plan. But what do you then, Valentin? What would we define as long-term in that case? Is it the plan from 6 months ago, 8 months ago? We saw last year, and they love to talk about it now, right? They've got all these documentaries that they've come out with in the year since of everything that happened with last year's card and when they made the change. This year, did they find out when they were or were not going to have access to The Rock? It definitely seems, at least since January 6th, they've known some of that the way they presented The Rock. Who knows? I felt this year's WrestleMania was leading towards Rock and Cody. So clearly, I don't know. Is it some kind of quota within the company that we have to have Cody versus a Samoan in the main event every year? Not sure if that's going to happen. Might take Jacob if that's the case. He had himself a nice showing tonight. Jay probably the plan after the Netflix deal. Well, and I think going forward is the champions can be important in modern WWE. I think who the champion is matters, especially if it's the main title, because they really use that person in a certain light. Even though you didn't see Roman Reigns a lot during his 5-year title reign, he was clearly the face of the company in a way that the other part-timers really weren't. And they've transferred over to Cody. They've had Cody as a face of the company kind of guy. And that's where that title has really resided. It makes you think, though, can you also see a guy like Jey Uso in that role? Because I think a lot of people have been arguing, and obviously not unsuccessfully arguing, that Jey needs to get the push, that they should do something with Jey, that they need to strap up Jey. And I think a lot of people in wrestling media specifically have been pushing back on that, talking about the fact of not really seeing Jey, despite his nickname, as a main event guy, as the champ. I think you can make that same argument for a Sami Zayn a couple of years ago, even when he had so much momentum going into that match in Montreal, and it kind of made sense in a lot of ways in storyline for him to win the title. It was hard for, I think, a lot of people to make that connection. Is he the man? Is he the guy in WWE that is such a specific role? So he's got, maybe The Rock shows up and costs Jey the title. I'm just not. If it's either one of the two WrestleMania title matches, you can have some interference in it, but that just seems like a very cheap way to go about it. I know they kind of did that last year. Well, not really. They had Drew win the match and then Punk got involved, so I wouldn't even say that. It's unpredictable. Sports talk. It really is. I mean, is unpredictable good? It is an age-old question in wrestling discourse. And predictability with this year's Royal Rumble has a really funny role, because I don't think you could say it was predictable, because there was no consensus. Maybe Cena and Punk were the closest things that anybody had to consensus. I assume you mean favor, Azan, not his flavor. And they hinted upon all of that in that closing sequence that we talked about to open the show. I mean, we talked about it to open the show. Easy for me to say. Towards the end of the show, because you had the stomps from Seth onto Roman, which would seem, by years of wrestling logic, wherever or however you get paired off at the Royal Rumble, that is who your dance partner will be at Mania. But in the context of that match, obviously Seth has his obsession with both Roman and Punk. He's pretty set on both those guys, but especially Roman. So the stomps to Roman's head were not necessarily surprising. But then Punk still walked by Heyman there, so all the tentacles are still there. Let me check something on my connection real quick, guys. Yeah, we'll break down the tag division and talk about all that and what happened there. And that poor match was in a really, really, really tough spot. So why don't we do that? We've talked a lot about, we've chewed on that main event quite a bit. Why don't we go back through the card itself? We'll start from the beginning and we'll work our way down. We've only got 4 matches to break down. I would say it shouldn't take us a very long time, but I actually hope it does. And I am so appreciative of you guys right now in the chat being so active, whether you're joining us on Twitter, on the One True Sport Twitter account, or on the RVD Twitter account, which, if you're joining us on the RVD Twitter account, our boy RVD got a little bit of screen time tonight on the Rumble. Remember the days when they were showing all of these guys' Twitter handles or X handles nonstop on TV? You think tonight we could have got an RVD Twitter handle shout out? Would have been nice, Trips. Would have been nice. We can skip the Rumble. Blow by blow like JFK. They weren't in Texas tonight, so I don't know if we can quite give a Zapruder film there, Azan. So, the Women's Rumble. What did you guys think of it? And give me your honest opinion on it. What did you guys think of the Women's Rumble? Because I felt like I was on an island by myself with this match. I absolutely found this match to be a snoozer. I go on Twitter, though, and you guys, or at least the people whoever I receive on Twitter and on Blue Sky, they were all in. They were all in. Josh didn't like either Rumble. Josh just comes in here with his black avatar and says both Rumbles suck. On a Saturday night, I can appreciate that, Josh. Eddie said it was just okay. So yeah, again, I don't know if it was my algorithm, but there was so much praise for the Women's Rumble. As was mentioned, or maybe wasn't at the top of the show, I should mention, Charlotte, unsurprisingly, ended up winning the Royal Rumble. Had that pick right on Monday. Glad I got that one correct. Hate that the court jester won. Roxana Perez was the MVP. I believe she was going to win and pull off another upset. I expressed how I feel with the one Rumble. Josh is right. I have some specific reasons of why I felt the way I did about the Rumble, but I want to get into the Rumble a little bit. Let me pull up both the Wikipedia and some of my notes so I can go off of it as we talk about some of these things that happened in these Rumbles. See, they're really long matches, so I'm not going to break down every entrance, although I have most of them written down, but I will go over some highlights here. Let me I guess now I can actually take a swig of coffee for the working man, being that I'm not playing hooky like last time I talked to you guys. Now, I didn't quite catch that on commentary whenever they talked about that. Was that the did she break Bailey's record from last year? Was that the record that she broke? Was that how long? And was that the overall record for both the men's and the women's Rumble, or was that just the women's Rumble? I mean, either way, she was in there for a whole hell of a long time. Aside from the result, though, I think that was the biggest story of that match, was how much Roxanne was featured in there. I mean, she came in. What was she the? Was she fully number one, or was she number 2 or 3? Yeah, she was number 3, which is just as good as basically being number 1. And she lasted till the very end. She was the final woman eliminated by Charlotte Flair. So I would say a hell of a performance. She looked good in the matchup. She was featured at different times after Nia tossed over a ton of them. So that Nia spot's the thing that ruined that match for me, if I'm going to be honest. But we'll break down parts of it. Now, I do not think it was surprising for this match to open the show. I think we all pretty much had this match opening the show. You're going to have to bookend these shows with Rumbles when you have 2 of them on one show. I saw a lot of discourse online tonight, and I cannot disagree with it. In an era where we have multiple wrestling shows, we can have 2-night Royal Rumbles. We can have a men's night and a women's night. Bleep Nia and Charlotte. In what context, Eddie? In what context? All right. So yeah, as we mentioned, Io was entrant number 1, and I think there was a really good chance you could have seen Io have a hell of a show in here, and it was okay, but I thought we'd get a little more out of there. And Liv was number 2. Now Liv lasted a really, really long time in this thing, and then mentioned Roxana at number 3 and Lyra number 4. Poor Lyra, she came out there and immediately her top came undone. About to have a wardrobe malfunction. Now, it didn't fully come undone in her, so they didn't have to do those weird cutaways where Kevin Dunn, is clearly peeking in the other direction as they're doing that. And you saw, I believe it was Liv or someone out there gave her a little bit of color, not in a good way. All right, Eddie, not in a good way. But I felt bad for Lyra because she doesn't have anything to do on TV, and then her poor top just comes off there. Not good for her. So Chelsea came out number 5. Chelsea was a star early in this match. This match was very much built around her. But I thought it was interesting that the new secondary champs came out back to back at 4 and 5. Chelsea came out there with as a house of fire. She came out there with the slaps of women, but just did not eliminate anyone. And that was followed by BFAB, who came in after that. And I had to ask, were we getting any eliminations? And that is my first criticism of the Women's Rumble match, is it went so long with just no eliminations and no actions that it was just a match of entrances and fire up spots. And that's all it was for the first third of the match. And eventually, I watch wrestling every week. I can get over these entrances really, really quick. The Ivy Nile spot was pretty cool, when she did the double German, though, to Roxanne and Chelsea. And Ivy even gathered a "You Suck" chant. Well deserved. Lash Legend came out at number 9. Got positive reactions at the time when she was showcased. But another part of the showcase, when Lash Legend came in, she's there literally picking up all these girls and setting them down on the mat. It's like, Lash, I got to tell you, The way to win this match, you got to throw the girls over the top rope. You've been here for a couple of years now. You should know this by now, Lash. Chelsea ended up eliminating BFAB. When Bianca came out, though, that was when I would say the proverbial business picked up in the match. All of a sudden, Bianca came out there. Her showcase was kind of cool. And it makes sense, too, because she is so much about power that is so much of her skill set and her move set. I was too, Austin. I was very surprised by that. Just because Becky has been featured so much and there's been so many teases, the lack of some of the surprises of guys who have been around really made me take notice. But maybe, and this is a conclusion I've drawn, maybe the Rumble isn't the place that they're always just going to read. It's not necessarily the first page of the new season where they re-debut everyone. And maybe we'll get some of these guys coming in throughout the next month. But there's not a lot till WrestleMania, but there is a lot of time. WrestleMania is the second week of April. We are the first day of February, and we have exactly 1 month from tonight. See you that night. We have the Elimination Chamber from Toronto. Why was the ramp so long? Why not use the golf cart segue? Just like don't. Yeah, I was looking for the golf cart segues. My favorite story of the golf cart segue was Biggie. You had Big Show, you had Mark Henry giving a segue, and to be fair to those guys, not only are those guys very large men, but at that point in their career they were older men, so that is a bit of a walk. I loved though Biggie back in the day going on Twitter saying, "I guess this is WWE's way of telling me I'm fat because they offered him a segue." $419, $420, woo! Mania nights. Is that seriously when WrestleMania falls, E? Because the RVD Twitter account is going to be great if we have WrestleMania on 420. I'm sure you guys will be fully engaged in that show. Yeah, the entrance was big, and it's not the first time they're ever at a football stadium, but it's one of the first times I can recall in a modern America WWE kind of situation where you have the angle on the entrance. So you had the very long entrances. Again, I'm thinking of that Royal Rumble that was in like San Antonio in 2017. I think that's the one that the segues really got. I don't know why I'm looking over here as if like the Alamo Dome is right over there to make my example. But this is how we're going to do it, guys. It was one very long entrance. This was like a turning kind of entrance, so the guys had to run down and turn. I did see on the scrum after the fact, which if any of you guys have scrum news, please put your scrum news in there. If CM Punk quits the company in the middle of the scrum, please tell me in the comments because we might need to cover that. But I did see that Charlotte noted she couldn't get her robe off there over there too. So there was a lot of issues there coming down the road. This Mania 2 is 420. The only thing I'm sure about in your life. So E, the only thing that is certain in E's life is that WrestleMania Night 2 is on 420. He doesn't even know if the 19th is when Night 1 is. He just knows 420 is when it's happening for him. Hope you enjoy yourself, E. Zoe Stark almost killed herself too, coming off the rope. Did you guys see this? Zoe Stark came off the rope, but she was doing something, and she fell forward like that. And let's see what do we have here. Ivy eliminating Lyra. So we actually have. Look at that. Lyra might actually get a storyline. That's cool. Oh, by far. I don't even think that's that hot of a take, Austin. So let's see what E has to say about the Punk show, about the post show. Triple H has already been out for a while. Cena declared for the Chamber, which not a shock, right? They've been advertising him for that show. I guess he officially declares for the match, and that's if you're doing that with Cena, you're basically resetting the 2018 storyline of how is it that I'm going to get to WrestleMania and I got to do all these things. It's like him and Punk are going to be on both versions of that. Bailey came out number 12. There was a stare down with her and EO that was broken up, which I think was kind of cool. Maxine came out at number 13. I gets the best of Ivy Nile for a little bit. So, and let me know. Maybe I haven't been following this, guys. Tell me in the chat. Is Ivy Nile supposed to look like Elizabeth Berkley? That's her name, right? The girl from Saved by the Bell that was at Striptease. Is that what she's going for? Because holy hell, she looks just like her with the way she has her hair going. She had like the 90s jeans thing going. Or do you think something? I don't know. Tell me what's going on with that. Tell me what's going on with that. Robert, you think something is building up between Bianca and Naomi after me? Yeah, I think there's something building for sure. The Jordan thing was cool too. I like the way they pulled that off. Right now, it's Triple H putting everyone over. So did they not overcharge for this show? This wasn't the biggest gate of all time. Was that the case? We didn't get the big gate announcement like we always do. We had Stephanie open the show. So like all of the PFC eliminated Maxine. Naomi came in at number 15. So she was unsplitting it in the middle. That moment was great though. Whenever it was Jada Parker, Lash Legend, Naomi, and Bianca, and they were all around Chelsea for just a minute. That was cool. Jordan Grace entered at number 19. So I guess Jordan Grace lied. Like, what happened to Jordan Grace's mom's birthday? Like, did she neglect her mom for her birthday? Did her mom get to go to the Royal Rumble? Did her mom get dinner tonight? Is she still going to show up? Like, what is her mom watching Collision? What the hell's going on with her mom? What's up, David? What's going on, man? So we all knew Jordan was going to be there. And she got a pretty good pop. She looked great out there. Our old friend Pat McNeil was saying she looked like Sabrina Carpenter with huge muscles, which is a very accurate description of Jordan Grace, which maybe because I hadn't watched Impact as much in the last few years, I'm still not used to Jordan Grace quite looking like this. Like, she used to look different, I feel like, when I would watch her and follow her more on Twitter, but that is part of me for not following Impact as much. Chelsea, though, was eliminated by Piper, which you figured one of these kind of eliminations was going to happen with the heavy, and that's what it is. Jordan got a huge pop though when she hit the Death Valley Driver on Piper, and then you had Bianca and Naomi going in for the hug, and that's where the jealousy of Naomi of Bianca came in, and all of that was just very cool. Jordan ended up eliminating Jada. Meechin came out at number 20, and probably the biggest surprise in the Women's Rumble was not Jordan Grace. We all knew that was happening. The biggest surprise was Alexa Bliss coming out at 21. Alexa Bliss supposedly very unhappy with the company, going all these different directions. She's posting photos with her and her daughter. They're on different pages. Well, she's back. There she was. And Wade and Michael Cole having a ton of fun about it on commentary. No, I don't. I really don't, Austin. I think we are getting Tiffany and Charlotte. I do not think we are getting that, and that would be Ripley versus Charlotte 3. So I do not think we're getting a match. Yeah, David, we talked about it earlier. We'll talk about it later. There's very few moments I think that will ever really be able to match that. So some others that entered around this point: Candice at 22. Zelina Vega came in there with a big old thing of antlers there. That was big. Stephanie Vaquer coming in at 24. Stephanie Vaquer looked great out there. There was at one point where she was doing the head slamming thing with her legs, and that was pretty awesome. Darren Interesting, Darren. Interesting. Trish got a nice pop at 25. And I don't know. I've been mean to Trish in the past on podcasts. I don't think Trish is quite the legend that she is portrayed to be when she comes back and makes these appearances. I just don't think Trish was that good in her prime. Hot take, I know. But as was pointed out by many people, not just me, why the hell would you do a stratisfaction in a Royal Rumble? And I hated this, and it happened in the men's Rumble as well. But it was happening. It was happening a lot in this women's Rumble where the women are doing like a showcase move, which is cool. That's fine, but has nothing to do with eliminating your opponent. And then we started getting some eliminations. Raquel came out at 26, so there was some help for um, Liv, who eliminated Natty. We still got Natty around there, and then eliminated Alexa Bliss. And there was a little bit of bad feelings when Alexa was thrown out. Charlotte came in at 27, and you know 27 is the favorite spot, so of course Charlotte had to come out at number 27. No, I don't think anyone bought Liv winning the Rumble except for the possible tyranny that may engender. Yeah, there wasn't a lot of those spots because we ended up not having. We also ended up without the Kofi spot, David. Piper was eliminated by Charlotte. Julia, the NXT champ, came out at number 28 and eliminated Jordan, which that was a bit of a surprise. I thought Jordan was going to eliminate more women. I really did. I thought when Jordan came out there, she was going to clean house. And she looked fine in the Rumble. I think she was one of the stars of that match. We have Zelina eliminated by Nia, which is like the biggest size mismatch we've ever seen. Trish eliminated Candice. And then Trish getting eliminated herself by Nia. And number 30 was Nikki Bella. Not a ton of reaction for Nikki. We joked about it a couple weeks ago on the Raw Netflix. We noted how Nikki got no reaction compared to the contemporary stars. Fast forward that till tonight, I didn't think Nikki got a great reaction. I will say the crowd was very, very muted. Not that they were quiet the whole night. I just think that the crowd was very, very low. Poor Stardom Joshi burns. So yeah, not quite Rey Mysterio at number 30, but it was a bit deflating, to be honest, when she came out. Now she's been talking for the last 2 weeks about how much she missed the company, wanted to come back. She's another woman who I think her popularity has always been misunderstood. I think she definitely had fans. She did improve throughout her career. And that final character that she had as the sort of final diva character was really, really good. It doesn't mean people have this affinity, though, to see her wrestle forever. And I think that's the case with a lot of people. Like, you could be into people for a short amount of time, but you don't necessarily accept them as this big time star or anything like that. And her being presented like this number 30 final boss, almost as equivalent to her former fiance, John Cena, as he was on the other side, I think that's just ridiculous. I really do. She ended up being eliminated later on, but this is when we get to the spot, that spot that you guys were talking about. So they were doing a thing where everyone was kind of falling over each other. And it's because it seemed like initially they were doing the Nia Jax Big Show spot where the 40 other competitors will just eliminate the biggest person in the match. We've seen it 1,000 times. That's the Big Show Nia Jax role. But she fought back on it. And then you had a whole bunch of people who you seemed like could win this match or were important in this match or you at least cared about. They all got eliminated in one swoop by Nia Jax, and it was so unceremonious, so uneventful. Didn't quite have the impact they wanted it to, I don't think. The commentators were more stunned by it than able to sell the moment. I was already saying that this match wasn't great because of the time between the no eliminations. And I'm going back through pieces of this match. There were a lot of really good parts about this match and a lot of stuff to take away now that I'm breaking it down a little more granularly. But that moment when everyone got thrown out, I think what you're implying there, Michael, yeah, it was flat. It was absolutely flat, and it was just it was very deflating the way it felt lazy is what I'll say, because at that point you had most of the women out and there were still so many women that weren't eliminated, so you figure something was going to kind of have to come to a head, and part of it was the execution, part of it was the idea, none of it though really worked. But then we were down to much less women finally. You had Julia eliminated by Roxanne, Bailey eliminated by Nikki, and then Nikki eliminated by Nia, which left us with a final three of Nia, Charlotte, and Roxanne. Charlotte threw out Nia. I thought this was going to come down to maybe Charlotte and Nia, as Nia, that sort of Big Show Roman Reigns final boss. And then eventually it was Charlotte kicking out Roxanne and winning, and Charlotte gets the victory. What did you think of that match when we started talking about it about 20 minutes ago? You guys weren't very hot on it. I wasn't very high on it. People I saw on Twitter, very high on it. I think there were enough good moments to probably qualify it as a thumbs up match. As I went back through it now, breaking it down granularly, I don't think it was that interesting to watch though. Does the result play into it? Maybe. I was very aware that this was what the result was going to be. I think most people were. The predictability in this case was so spot on. When we take the two matches, the men's and the women's Rumble, both of them have this contrast of predictability where it's almost impossible to get to a more predictable finish than what we had in the women's match. And at the same token, it's like impossible to get, I wouldn't say to get I mean, I guess if there wasn't a ton of jobbery wrestlers in this in the men's match, but I don't know. Ludwig Kaiser, if he won the thing, maybe that would have been more shocking. Yeah, it was slow. It was slow. Yeah, I've seen the Triple H on my screen. So now going forward, though, let's break down Charlotte as the victor because she is. Whether you like it, I like it, or anyone else likes it, that's a good grade. Austin, C plus is a good grade. Whether any of us like it or not, she is the number one contender. She will challenge for some title at WrestleMania. Currently, the two women's champions that she would have a shot at, unless I don't know, she really, really just had it in her to go after the secondary titles. Which didn't she go after the NXT title that Rhea Ripley once had? So I mean, I guess it's within the realm of possibility. I'm not saying it's the biggest surprise ever, Eddie. I'm saying compared to everyone else in the match and who you had that like who you would have picked to win that match. I don't think the odds would have had Jay in that mix of like those 14 guys. Jay was down at the LA Knight range. It doesn't really have anything to do with, I think, how over he is. Oh yeah, I forgot about that part. We'll talk about that a little bit later. A little bit later, Mike. But Charlotte is a victor again. I've got Charlotte taking on. I've got Charlotte taking on Tiffany just because I don't think they'll do Rhea versus Charlotte 3. I just don't think it's that important of a match right now. Now, what do you do with Rhea? I'm not really sure. There's some new blood for her. There's some people she's already faced. She has gone a few rounds with everyone at the top currently, and I want to say she's beaten just about everyone. That may be the case, Eddie, but it's still a surprise. Like I think it's still outside the realm of what we would have expected to happen, as opposed to Charlotte, which is absolutely what we expect to happen. A match with her and Tiffany, though, is going to have to do some sort of relational maintenance with Tiffy, as she has sort of been back and forth with her characterization. I think Charlotte's a good character for her to be fully on the babyface side entrenched on, because I think you can get a lot of heat from Charlotte. At the same time, part of the problem with Charlotte is she does sort of suck the energy out of a lot of the things that she's in. It really takes her working with these other people who are just so markedly better than her, and then she kind of gets exposed to some of those situations. It's really weird with her because she's very good. I try not to be one of those people who just deny her talent. There's no question, though, she's been given opportunities that I don't think people feel like she deserves. All the animus that people for years had towards Roman Reigns, I think you could very much apply that animus more appropriately to Charlotte over the years. Jordan versus Rhea would be great if they found a way to get there. Again, I think the heel and face alignment thing. I think you want some adherence to that. I don't know what that means in the modern day, but I think you want some of that. You change the channel, Eddie, when Flair shows up. I'm not quite on the channel changing moment with her, but because again, I do think she's very good. It's just she's been oversaturated, and she's been gone for a year, and she still feels oversaturated. I think what it is there is she tends to just loom so large over that division. Let me grab the water here. Got some coffee for the evening. Have the trusty ginger ale. Depending how late we go, might grab an actual beer. What do you guys think? Start giving some real takes then, some drunk takes. I do like Jordan versus Rhea though. Like I've been thinking about that a lot actually throughout the day, and how much that would be a hell of an attraction. I think it's a tough sell, Eddie. I really do. I really do on that third match. They can do it though. In my opinion, Jordan versus Tiffany feels like something that's a little closer to possibly happening. Even though I really just do see Charlotte and Tiffany, but that possibility would exist. It's hard to say though, because there was a lot of interaction with main roster, and there was a lot of interaction with NXT when it came to Jordan. So I think that's to be determined, right? The implication has been that she's going to the main roster, but she had a lot of interaction with the NXT women. I think it would have to go with Tiffany would eventually make the full babyface turn. Tiebreaker time. No, and I get that. I get that. I just don't know if there's a lot of desire to see that match. That's what I meant by a bit of tough sell. I get where statistically it makes sense. That's a funny thing to think about though. If we were to like go back and reset certain feuds and stuff and say they don't count now that Vince isn't there, I think that would be great. So that was the women's match. I think we have about the same opinion of it. Like, and as we were going through and talking, I think we all kind of have the same basic opinion on the match. Some of the takeaways, though, as I mentioned, Roxanne looked great in the match. I thought that was a great showcase for. I think Jordan, they could have done more with her, but that was a huge moment of pop. And then it just after that, though, I don't think there was a lot, and I think that Nia elimination really brought that match down. Just took that down. None of you guys on this stream care, but I'm getting notes into the newsroom that the New Mexico Lobos did beat the Utah State Aggies tonight. Still first place, by the way, Mountain West, in case any of you care. Fill me in, Azan. Have they never actually done that match at WrestleMania? Why do I feel like that match has been done before? Because it's those two women beating horsewomen every year at WrestleMania. Have they never actually faced each other? And why does that like shock me? Who's turning from that group? You got Bianca turning from that group and not Naomi? Eddie, I'm just curious about that. I don't think anyone was down for the Nikki comeback. It did not receive widespread support. All right, and we talked about it earlier, but let's break it down a little bit. The tag match, which was in the poor death slot of the night. There were 4 matches on this night, and one of these things was not like the other, as you had DIY, Gargano and Ciampa taking on the Motor City Machine Guns, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin. 2 out of 3 falls match. We've talked about this a lot in the last couple of weeks, that this was going to be difficult having this match on this show, because it's a long show with really, really long matches. How are you going to also sneak in a 2 out of 3 falls match in the middle of all of this? That seems just difficult from an attention span standpoint. And to start the match, there was no energy from the crowd, no energy from really anyone, because people were spent from the Royal Rumble. They took a little bit of time before they got this thing into the ring, but this was in a hell of a death spot. And we got the first fall relatively quick. A criticism also, obviously, with 2 out of 3 falls matches is that you get falls that you would not get in other matches. And for some reason, we just get quicker falls, as if the wrestlers are suddenly not as good because there's more falls at stake. And you had some fall trickery, right? Where I believe it was Ciampa was not tagged out. And so you had one of them, I believe it was Shelley going after the other one, and Ciampa with the attack. If you were only listening on audio, that didn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense. My apologies. Felt like she was running again. Alex Shelley picked up the second fall. And as you guys mentioned, the Street Profits snuck up for some help at the end, and DIY getting the final thing. Took a while to figure out who the hell that was, didn't it? Especially when Dawkins came up, like he looked so he looked so tall, right? And they look like big old dudes. Like, who was that? And it was like, oh, the Profits. All right, well, I guess we're doing this now. And they help DIY retain and then beat up everyone at the end. Again, I felt the crowd was getting into this a little bit at the end as this was getting going, but it was just very hard for them. Many of them were going to the restroom. Weird spot that this was in on this card. There was a lot to process in that Women's Royal Rumble, and this match was just in a really bad spot. But you have obviously the Profits declaring where they are at the top of the division. Motor City Machine Guns, I think, have an out to want more matches, and you have DIY at the top. Pretty Deadly is kind of hanging around over there. What do you guys think? Do we have a tag division right now in WWE? Is it a good tag division? Are you interested in it? Was that the contrast is on? Is that why they seemed huge? Yeah, they just seemed like towering men. You're done with them as a team, Azan? Completely. They talk about the stat about how long that it's been since they haven't won a title and stuff like that. And that is pretty amazing. Loyal MCM fan. You know what? I am too, Valentin. To be honest with you, I do generally, and this is not the analyst in me, but from like a fan standpoint, I get excited to see them. Like I think it's refreshing to see a tag team of middle-aged men who dress like teenagers. Yes, it is refreshing at times because they just spent so long in the TNA gulag. It's so nice to see them underneath the bright lights. Whoa, I'm hearing myself in the. No, you never had a Gargano slash Ciampa moment where you thought they were like the best wrestlers in the world for a few minutes. You didn't go through your phases on like the rest of us, or excuse me, that was E. My bad. I wore out of Gargano. I'll be honest with you, Austin. At some point, like right at the beginning of the pandemic, I want to say, which I think was a common time when people did tune out on him. Great. And then we get to the co-main event of the evening, one of the obviously the major matches and one of the feature programs on this show and the company right now. Cody Rhodes, the generic champion, versus the rightful Winged Eagle champion in Kevin Owens for their ladder match. And it's like the storyline here, right? Kevin Owens has had 5 Royal Rumble title matches and he never wins. Is this going to be the time? Does he get the job done on this night? Well, sorry, folks. The answer is no. Kevin Owens is not your new champ. He's not the Winged Eagle champion. He has no belts. He is KO, no belts. What were Cody's heel tactics in this match? Cody had some heel tactics at the Saturday night's main event. What were his heel tactics in this match? That bump off the ladder was great, Eddie. That bump was brutal. I gotta say, let me say, I'll get into some of the specifics of this match. I absolutely adored this match. Now, this was not a blowaway, like 5-star type of match, and this wasn't a stunt type of ladder match, although they beat the hell out of each other. This was a little more athletic than I would say a Rock Triple H ladder match that you had at a SummerSlam 1998. But it's not Kalisto flipping on the top of the thing either. So it's kind of in between there. I'm gonna have to put that up there. So Cody Rhodes took a butt kicking tonight. My inner Cody crybaby is coming out, but he is the man until they prove it. You know what, Austin? I was hanging out with like I think a fan club of the Cody Crybabies tonight, so I think we're in support of Cody Crybabies tonight. No, Cody's still the man. Even in spite of all these other things that are really over around him, Cody is still the man. And the core wrestling fans at times on podcasts can deny that because of scar tissue we have from previous top wrestling baby faces in that position. Cody KO better than the first 2 matches. I agree, Eddie. The Jenny Craig world title. You know, for KO and Cody, we're not sponsored. Let's take a. We're not even going to take ginger ale. We'll take a swig of actual beer on a Saturday night for the Rumble. For all of you, for all 6,800 of you that are watching across platforms right now, what's up? Cheers. I'm glad you got no issues with Cody is on. Yeah, I loved that they weren't doing tons and tons of flips and dive. They did enough. They beat the hell out of each other. We started out though with the punches as you would. Glad we didn't get a lockup. And then a fairly entertaining walk and brawl. It's part of what gave me the idea for the beer was you had the classic Austin spot, which was KO that did it to Cody, right? Or the other way around, I may have the wrong, where he just threw the beer right in his face. If you're gonna do a walk and brawl spot, that's about as best as you're gonna do it. No liquor, nah. No, I'll be asleep if we have liquor. So we'll stick to beer. Either that or I'll just start venting on stuff that you don't want to hear me. I'll be bringing up old recriminations. And on a wrestling podcast, do we really, really want that? You really want me to be like really mad about the '06 Royal Rumble? Like, oh, they're just using Eddie's death to exploit Ray. We don't want liquored up Rob on this podcast right now. 301 days on the mustard belt. Eventually, though, we had our Sammy interference. Sammy did run out there to do basically nothing. To tease us that he was going to do something, and nothing really happened. So there was no real involvement other than him running out there. And I think if there was any value really to Sammy being out there, other than the will he or he won't he aspect to it, it was more that it had the effect of like Terry Funk being there during the Hell in a Cell match, where Terry Funk, being the friend of Mick Foley, helped sell, I think, the brutality of the Hell in a Cell of Taker throwing Foley through that cell. Now, this is obviously not on the level of King of the Ring 1998. This is not that level of brutality. But I think it did add a little bit to that visual. But all of this was built up for so much that him getting involved, messing it up, something, you thought there would be some sort of payoff, or at least something that had relevance later on. And it almost feels like Sammy was built up so much as a central character just leading into the show, and he had such a little role in the show. I'm curious to see where he goes going forward. Can we still get Four Locos? Like, are Four Locos still in circulation? I feel like I passed the Four Locos demographic, unfortunately, in my life, but I can always go back. I'm drinking like the most popular beer in the world, real underground of me, right? Real punk rock of me, like getting the biggest mainstream brew in the world. Sorry, microbrews suck. Do I lose my millennial card for saying that? They do. Anticlimactic Sammy. You could do Sammy and Cody later in the month, since they're in Skydome. Well, that's something to think about too. Is you have these two top Canadian stars in Sammy and KO, and you have a major Canadian stadium show coming up next month. Do you pull something that you would have pulled to WrestleMania? Do you bring that in there? Oh, good. We have an update on Four Locos. According to E, they still do sell Four Locos, so we'll have to go pick some up a little later tonight. Cody, though, did get the win here after the spot, which was a really cool sequence. First of all, you had the it wasn't quite the package pile driver spot, but you had the slam spot on the ladder. This is Cody. This is Cody being slammed by Kevin. You had the ladder set on the first rope and then hooked onto the other ladder. So it's kind of doing like a cross type of thing. Great for the audio audience. You can see my hands doing a cross. Sorry about that. But he flips him over, and it just did a really nice bounce the way Cody bounced. Now, Cody didn't take like the craziest bump where he went like bashing through a table after the fact. It was a very simple bump where he bounced off it and came up almost in that cartoony kind of wrestling way and just fell forward on it, which I think really worked. And this was really building. We're talking about the finishing sequence, which I thought was done really, really well. And you had KO setting up for that package pile driver on the announce table. And again, this is Triple H's WWE. These announce tables don't break. I was assuming Cody was going to, I don't know, die here or something. We know the power of the package pile driver. But this led into, as you're mentioning, the Alabama slam spot there, Michael, in the comment section, shouting out to his former tag team partner, Cody Rhodes. Never forgot about his roots, apparently. Shouting out to Hardcore Holly. And he reversed him with the Alabama slam onto the ladder. The ladder broke just perfectly at the spot. It was a perfect spot where it had the impact. Obviously, KO's big body has the impact that it has, and it made the loud sound onto the pop. Got a hell of a pop. It took Cody a minute to get to the top of the ladder, but I didn't mind it here. Like, obviously, it's horrible when the baby faces get their like paralysis on the ladder because they're clearly waiting for the other guy to come push him over. And so suddenly the guys are getting on the ladder and they've got just no strength. Cody didn't have that. He was walking up at a fairly average pace, but the way they set it up with the devastation as if that move was the ender. Because we see this in ladder matches where the guys, they flip and they fall through ladders, and 5 minutes later, they're right back up doing moves, flipping. None of it really makes sense whenever you do it like that. This made sense to have that one big move be the thing that resulted in the finish. And I just think that was a nice little piece of business, the way they decided to wrap that up. And you got to wonder where everything goes from here. Is Cody's promos the last like 2 weeks was implying he was very much done with KO, despite this match not even happening. It does feel like our Canadian friends are a little paired off right now, but where does that leave everyone? One belt fast, the other slow off the latch. Yeah, he took a long time with the second one. First, there was the positioning because he was a little off, and I wasn't sure if that was the ladder with the broken rung, the old Wade Barrett trick, which that was a cool spot when you had him hitting him with the broken rung of the ladder. That was a cool spot. But ultimately, again, Cody gets the win. If you thought they were going to take the belt off of Cody before WrestleMania, I would like to make other bets with you, because you seem like a person that definitely deserves our attention. If you thought that was the case, they were not taking the belt off of Cody before WrestleMania, and I guess KO is 0-6 now. He should try to enter the Rumble. That should just be his thing for now. He should forego title shots at the Rumble. He doesn't do very well. He loses to multiple Shield members. He needs to be in the Rumble. From there, we got the another big piece of news of the night. Although I think there was some talk about this promotion, but not necessarily the platform. Apparently, we're getting Evolve. Yes, the Evolve, the promotion Evolve on Tubi. So indie-ish wrestling on Tubi. We have a Super Bowl on Tubi. Tubi's awesome. I don't care about ads. Like, I got ads on Netflix. I got ads on Peacock. I have ads on HBO Max. I'm too broke to pay for ad-free versions of anything. So Tubi is something I don't actually got to pay for. And they put up like the JFK movie 6 months out of the year. So what the hell else do you need? So March 5th is the official date on Evolve. I feel like I'm going to give that a shot. I don't know. I really like the idea. Maybe it's a weird thing to think about, but something about smaller wrestling coming to these low-cost streaming networks really intrigues me. Something I want to put a pin in. Do y'all bet on pay-per-views like DraftKings or my bookie sites? No, God, no. And look, I ain't exactly a Baptist over here trying to tell you how to live. I mean, I'm freaking drinking a beer on the post show here, so I'm not the moral arbiter of anyone. Do not gamble on pro wrestling. Please do not gamble on pro wrestling. Here's your freaking PSA. Do not gamble on pro wrestling. You probably shouldn't gamble on any sports, but do not gamble on a predetermined sport. Please do not do that. If you do, there's help for you. Not a gambling's anonymous, just like Dumbass Anonymous. Do not do that. But if you got any hot tips, send them my way. Or if you need any hot tips, I'll give you some. I'll split the money with you. NXT Level Up rebranded. So it's not actually Evolve in any true sense. We're not going to have Gabe Sapolsky out there booking. And then we get to the men's match. The men's Rumble match, which we figured would main event. We talked about earlier. Jey Uso wins it, but we'll break down some of the entrants. I have some notes there. Eventually, my notes kind of fell apart in this match. I had much better notes for the women's match. And then I realized I had too many notes. Like, you're taking too many notes. You're not actually watching what you're doing. So we also had a pretty long streak of no eliminations, but it was just a little bit better, I felt, of pace match than the women's match. You have plenty of wrestling then to access, Mike. Number one entrant was Ray. He did not get the number 30 spot. Thank God. When Ray's really getting close to retirement, they should give him the number 30 spot just as a tribute. No, take him to Philly. That wasn't Philly. That was Pittsburgh. Why did they go to Pennsylvania 2 years in a row in the Rumble? You know what, though, Austin? Yeah, you felt bad if anyone bet on the Rumble, except for the guy that took really long odds on Jey Uso. That guy. Shout out to that guy. Valentin, you're literally my oldest fan on the internet, and I have to put that up for you. Valentin has to admit that he once lost $5 on a WWE bet like 10 years ago. I believe it's much dumber. Never did it since. Learned from Valentin's testimony. You're laughing at everyone that The Rock was involved, that The Rock was going to get involved, E? Pentagon Jr. number 2 had Lucha Underground flashbacks from a decade ago. Yeah, so Ray and Penta opened the proceedings. Penta in the all blue here, looking a little bit like a Power Ranger, some might say. Going out against Ray to kick things off. A couple of Lucha legends getting things going. That's a match that we can see in the future. Did we ever get? So Ray was there season 1 of Lucha Underground. Did we? I know it was Puma versus Ray for what would they call? Was it the Gift of the Gods or whatever they would call their WrestleMania type of show? Their like one pay-per-view show. I want to say Ray and Puma, who is Ricochet, were the main event of that show. I don't remember exactly what happened to Lucha Underground. Penta got himself a nice little run in this match, though. Penta got himself some time. Gable was number 3. He's been having all the issues with the luchadors. And then Carmelo Hayes came out at number 4. Santos Escobar at number 5. Otis at number 6. I know I'm going through these kind of quickly, but not a lot happened in this portion of the match. Braun Breaker came out at number 7. That's when business started to pick up. Well, isn't Freddie Prinze Jr. literally a writer? So that would actually make sense if you follow his picks. But Braun threw out Carmelo Hayes pretty quickly. And that was shortly before Akira Tozawa was the spot of the guy who was beaten up on the ramp, and we have to, we're scrambling. In kayfabe, this happens like every year. I think there needs to be like 5 alternates, and there needs to be like a storyline that's on like very low level WWE programming. Like, how do you qualify to be one of the 5 alternates for the Royal Rumble that you could be called in at any second to replace like someone who gets assaulted on the way to the ramp? Being that that's like an annual occurrence in this company. Instead, I Show Speed replaced Akira Tozawa. Now, I don't know anything about I Show Speed. I believe, was he the guy that was barking at Randy Orton last year? Just because I'm on the internet right now talking to you guys doesn't mean I know anything about the internet. So if you guys have any like Gen Z perceptions going on out there, please let me know. My Gen Z resources weren't here tonight, so I really couldn't take advantage of them. So ISO Speed is out there. He comes out with the House of Fire and has no impact on anyone. And then Braun kills Speed. Sheamus came out at number 9. Shortly thereafter, Jimmy Uso came out. Nobody, when Jimmy Uso came out, was he number 10? Let's see, what was his official number? I did not write it down there. Scratch that. I don't know how to read my notes. Jimmy Uso came out number 10. Wrong Uso. As much as no one was predicting Jay was going to win at that point, I guarantee you nobody was predicting Jimmy was going to win at that point, and they would have been correct. Them having the Speed dude doing the rest of the roster dirty is the only thing I know he is an influencer. Yeah, I don't know anything about him. I do like that. I mean, that name is kind of cool the way it comes up there. ISO Speed, but I mean, it's just a screen name, right? No spaces. No, I was born into the best era, 1994 at Survivor Series. Good for you. Good for you. Sheamus did not win. So does that mean he's once again in position for the IC title? Andrade came out, and then Jacob Fatu came out at number 12. Another business picking up situation. What's up, person from X? Do not quite understand what the Twitter handle is, but what's up? Hello. Kaiser came out and was very quickly eliminated. Kaiser was doing the thing where he's kind of hanging on the side. He's eliminated very quickly. Miz came out for his non-eliminations that he generally has. Midway through the match, we had the first real impact guy we had in this match, which I think might have been on the male side, the only impact individual we had. You believed in Joe Hendry? He came out. Our friend Zach just got done at the scrum. He's texting me now. Yes, how did it go? We're still live, bud. Hour and 20 minutes. What's up, Ron? Nice to meet you. Or is that your name? Are you Ron? Or you call me Rob? I may be Rob. Either way, nice to meet you. Zach's asking how it was. You believe the end. Still going. Right after Joe Hendry, though, Roman Reigns came out. Roman Reigns looking good this night, wasn't he? I gotta say. I don't necessarily find the male side of our species attractive, but I just found that Roman Reigns looked really good on this night. Got some of the gray painted out of the beard. I guess I'm gonna have to go do that to follow the Roman footsteps. He looked bigger than he had looked in a little while. Maybe since I hadn't seen him in a little bit, which he hasn't been gone a long time. Seen him at Survivor Series, but unlike John Cena, he had himself a nice tan. Good color on the Tribal Chief tonight. Just look good, man. My man was looking sharp. Not like Roman's never looked bad. I mean, Roman on his work today, my God. Speaking of good-looking dudes, Drew McIntyre came out right after that. No, I don't. Well, we were on a string of good-looking dudes here because Finn was actually the next guy coming out. So it was the Hampson dude section of the proceedings. I should actually talk about any of this match instead of commenting on the appearance of all these dudes coming out. Shinsuke had his entrance shortly thereafter. Then Jay came out at number 20. So you had Jimmy at number 10, Jay at number 20. So you had an Uso every 10 people. Braun Strowman coming out at 22, and then John Cena, which is great. Right now, I'm kind of breaking down the Wikipedia thing because John Cena doesn't have a brand. His little things in white as unaffiliated. He comes out there at 23, followed right by CM Punk, and at that point, you start doing the math. Robert reading the looks rather than the match. Absolutely. You start doing the math when Cena comes out at 23. This is that all-time star-studded WrestleMania, and there's not a ton of stars out there. Again, we're not necessarily thinking Jay yet. You have Jay, you've got Roman, you got Finn, you have some of the guys, but there's still some of these big stars to go. So you start doing the math on surprises and anything like that. One surprise we did get right around this time was AJ Styles. So Valentin, speaking of appearances, Valentin has a great take here. Valentin notes, Cena always representing balding guys, so I have to support him. Stand in solidarity with Cena. Enough of that. Enough of that crap. Enough of that. Enough of that. You all didn't see that. Late night. Yeah, AJ came out there though. I was not expecting to see AJ back this soon. Now, someone from the chat on Twitter was all in on AJ on Monday night, and I was completely dismissive of that chatter. It might have been on the Wednesday stream. I feel really bad about that though. I was very dismissive of that chatter, and AJ Styles did come out, so my bad. I had Randy Orton, who didn't appear in the match, winning the whole damn thing. What do I know? So as I said, we're in the middle of the Legends row. We've got Punk, Rollins, Dirty Dom comes out. As you mentioned earlier, new music for Dirty Dom. Sami Zayn at the 27 spot. Did not think Sami was going to win, but I did think the 27 spot was interesting. Mostly natural E, but there's a little bit of my choice in there. You know, when you talk about the Cena thing, I was thinking about when Pritchard would talk about back in the day, he would have to go in and do the Hogan edits. And Vince specifically wanted to edit around Hogan's balding head, which if you've seen Hogan was like born with a bald head. Hogan's been born since Hogan was bald since the minute like he was born. Like his like empathy to connect to other human beings and be a normal human individual went with his hair in like the 50s. I don't know what the hell happened to Hogan's head. He's had the sides forever. And so poor Bruce Pritchard would have to go in there and had to pretend like Hogan wasn't bald and have to edit around the baldness. So if I ever get an editor in here, you know, Zach, if you ever want to pay someone, I'm going to come in here without a hat and I want you to edit this show around my baldness. Can we pay someone to do that? Zach's happy that we're still on. So I don't know. Did we get Zach on here? Should we call Zach? No, I'm not going to call Zach. He just got out of the scrum. I wonder if Zach got any questions in. I think Zach asked anything hard hitting about like a TV deal or something. Priest came out at 28. And at that point, the math was simple because you knew there was no more grand surprises. You could just figure out who was left. As you had LA Knight coming out at 29 and Logan Paul coming out at 30. I would say though that in terms of the last part of this match, was there tons of story? Maybe not. I think for a few minutes it was a lot of posing, a lot of big stars. And there's nothing wrong with that in a Royal Rumble, but I'm still having trouble connecting like, was it this? Was it that? Normally there's so many little seedlings that are planted in the Rumble. And I think there was a ton planted tonight. Let me clarify that. There was a ton planted tonight. I think it's harder to put all of them together. Paul was not worthy. There were teases, and I have this in my notes. Like I just wanted Jacob versus Braun. That's all I wanted. I thought Jacob Fatu looked great. Jacob Fatu had a nice little showcase in this match. I want him and Braun to just destroy each other. There's some combination of Jacob Fatu, Braun, and Penta that I need on my screen once a week. I need these guys blooding each other constantly. Roman ended up eliminating Braun though, which I think is significant and perhaps another seed to plant for the future. People talking about future WrestleMania main events. Braun versus Roman seems like a WrestleMania main event, in my opinion. You think they should have grass growing out of Hogan's head? You think like actual grass would be growing out of the dude's scalp? LA Knight does so much more. Yeah. LA Knight had his moment. Penta, though, I got to comment on Penta. Penta got a nice long look in this match in his blue attire. Braun ended up eliminating Jacob, though. Braun Strowman. Didn't see that coming despite their match a couple of weeks ago. I mean, it is what it is. I'm glad we have a good, healthy, productive conversation about male baldness going on in the chat right now. That is what we needed. That's what we needed on this night. Good perspective, Valentin. That would be, yeah, that's a great, a young bald person is very hillish in wrestling, or any form of hair altercation. I mean, you guys probably have no idea what I'm talking about, but you've got some NBA heads in the chat. You guys remember when Carlos Boozer put the shoe polish on his head? What a night that was. Remember when Twitter used to be cool? What a night that was. Now we're all on X, literally and figuratively. I wish I was. Oh, stuck on the Modelo for tonight. Braun did tell Jacob he should have killed him. Yeah, well, you should have. You really should have, Braun, Jacob. We'll get to that in a minute, mid-core, but we talked about it at the beginning. Mind blown, basically. Most of the hosts on 1TS are... Is Zach bald? I don't know. Zach's kind of a hat guy. Is that the trend here on the channel? Like, are we starting... Well, if that's the case, we should, like, instead of having this Discord where we talk about, like, wrestling storylines and music, can we talk about how to deal with our baldness? We can bring on, like, bald wrestling experts. Cena can speak at the keynote convention. Zach's got good hair. Zach's older than me, but somehow younger. It's great. Cena came out there, though, and again, I don't think there's a lot of guys that got no reaction, because I thought this crowd was very much into what they were seeing a lot of the night. You couldn't hear a lot of these reactions and the way they had the crowd mic, which is always a case, especially with the stadium shows post-pandemic. That Cena pop, you could hear that, though, and you could see, like, damn, still Cena still has that ability to get reactions out of crowds, and even when he came out there were moments in the match where he wasn't doing anything. And part of it's because he's a little bit of a troll out there. But be that as it may, there were minutes of the match you just all of a sudden would hear a "Let's go Cena sucks" chant. Like, what? First of all, what the hell year it is? We're still getting these, and it's like Cena's still able to get those reactions, and sometimes it's just perplexing. But on the one hand, I get it. Cena's a legacy guy, so he's gonna get those pops, and he's going to get that passion out of people just because people are excited to see him. They want to relive what they saw before. But I do think he does have an innate talent to get reactions out of people. One of the best pro wrestlers of all time. What a concept. He's got the ability to get reactions out of people. Speaking of a reaction, you had the one big stare down I felt was the Cena Punk Roman stare down. Which obviously I thought, well, this is a teaser to your final three. I felt like those are the three people that this match had really kind of been built around, with respect also to Sammy, I guess. And it was quickly broken up by the other man who keeps getting involved in everything, Seth Rollins, who had himself a bit of a night. And then business really picked up because we had everyone in the match for a really long time. Logan Paul was out there. Sammy was eliminated by the kick from Jay. Again, thought it was like, whoa, well, that's weird. Where are they going with Sammy? That's wild. Sammy was eliminated just like that. Didn't have much storyline in this match. No involvement with KO. Didn't realize now, looking back at the notes, the bigger story they were telling was the one with Jay. Absolutely mid-core. I thought those two matches were very good. We're not big of fans of the women's rumble, and then I thought the tag match was put in a really bad spot and was booked kind of weird. Drew being eliminated by Priest, did not see that one coming. Is Drew over fully on SmackDown? I know there've been like implications, or are we going to get him over there on Monday night? It does seem like that may be a direction they could go in. Although I just like the idea of all the fresh matchups that Priest can kind of have on the SmackDown side. We'll see where they go. Logan Paul eliminated AJ, which just pissed a lot of you guys off, right? Yeah, he is. Drew's a SmackDown guy fully. Oh, right on. I mean, I think they can definitely go that direction going forward on that side of things. So that's also the point though where my notes run out, and I just started kind of watching the match, and I have some stuff I'll have to point out here in the last couple of eliminations. Which, again, I think the peak of this match until the finish. The finish obviously was huge, and that's something that we've continued to break down on here. The peak of this match was Rollins and Reigns getting eliminated by Punk. You didn't see that coming. You figured Roman and Punk were going to play into each other's eliminations, and Seth and Roman were going to have something to do with each other. Yeah, I didn't know necessarily that all of that was going to intersect, and it was. Oh, I got you, E. And it was a shock that Punk threw both of them over like that. When that happened, though, in that moment, I was fairly positive this was Punk's Rumble. And honestly, probably I felt much less to care about that Randy pick as soon as we went off the air on Monday night. I didn't feel great about it. And as I ingested the Punk promo with Cody throughout the week, I started kind of thinking maybe that's just the direction they were going because of that promo. So good job, Trips. You got me to bite on your weekly television. And then when you had that, you had the big pop. You had Punk in those pink trunks. And so it's like when I say Punk in the pink trunks, those look like special trunks. It looks like one of those things where Punk was dressed for the special occasion, which was probably a great way to throw people off the scent. And then once he got eliminated, though, we were down to this final three of Logan Paul, Jey Uso, and John Cena. At that point, I didn't know what Jey Uso was in there for. I didn't know if Jey Uso was supposed to be the last guy to get cheered. I think he was supposed to be the last hope, the fans' choice. And for once, that kind of worked because they actually paid it off. You think of other times when they have done that, such as, again, going back to that 2016 Royal Rumble, where they did that with Ambrose, but their focus was getting Roman over. So it didn't really work when he sort of emerged. Or on the reverse, you have maybe Roman in 2014, where also he emerges at the end against Batista, or 2015 on the opposite, whenever you had Rusev reemerge against Roman Reigns. That guy never actually wins the match unless it's a super hilly thing in a lower card Rumble where he throws people out because he is hiding. In this case, no, it was the three of them going head to head for a minute, and then it came down when Paul was eliminated. It came down to Jey and Cena. And at that point, again, I was positive. that that's how it was going to go down, that Cena was winning the match. There's no way in that moment when that was our final two, hell, when it was the final three, there were no way in that moment that I ever anticipated that Jey would win that match at that moment. But he did. When Cena's feet hit the floor, I was stunned. I was looking around. I was seeing if someone else was going to come out. I was seeing if someone else was hiding. I yelled in my room. I was like, oh my God. I hate wrestling reaction like YouTube. It's the most inauthentic thing. On this predetermined show, the fans who are making these BS reaction shots so they can go viral, that is like the dumbest content on the internet. However, had you have got a shot of me, that would have been a genuine reaction whenever Jey. I was just stunned. I was happy to come on the show. We're going to have something to talk about. I was so down about talking about Cena and Charlotte winning these matches. There was just so little to talk about. Yeah, 16 champions, 17 champions, legacy, yada, 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 yada. Paul wanted out way too much. He's not Paul. I want to know way too much. Human. I don't see Paul like David Arquette at all. David Arquette was actively like bad and was explicitly a joke. I think you may not like Logan Paul, but I think him and I don't think David Arquette's the analogy. I do think Logan Paul will be champ someday, though. I think you can guarantee that. So now let's talk about that one last topic you guys have mentioned about Jay. Like, can he be the guy? Is he the guy? Is it okay with him being the guy? I've never saw Jey Uso as a main event player. I thought his feud with Roman, especially the beginning parts of it, when they really set out to establish the bloodline and establish this Roman character, I thought that was amazing stuff. I thought Jay was really good in that role. And I think he's been a key figure in getting the bloodline established. I think he's been a key figure in this recent boom period that the WWE is in. Obviously, Roman Reigns is the head of that. Obviously, Triple H and his creative team have done a great job with that. I think Nick Khan, for whatever credit he does deserve, I don't know what it is. I just know you're supposed to praise Nick Khan and kiss the ring, apparently. They're doing a good job. With all of that said, I continue to not necessarily buy Jey Uso in that role. But unlike others in this space, I don't think people are fixed necessarily always in these positions. Jey Uso being a 3/4 main eventer right at the top of the card and then slipping in. That is not something, though, that is insane to me. That is not something that is out of left field. Again, I'm trying to look at who was in this match and who it would be who would have been the least likely person to win outside of like IShow Speed. You'd have guys like Carmelo Hayes and Otis would be right at the bottom right of the list. Tozawa. Obviously, Jay has been presented much higher than those guys on the card. Jay's been right below the main event, but I have never saw him necessarily as champion. You say over, that's the reaction he's getting. I don't doubt that he is over. I'm not arguing with you that he is over, but I guess what I'm saying is that concept of someone just getting these big loud cheers for an entrance that they really like and for a wrestler that they connect to in those ways, that doesn't always translate to champion to me. And in fact, I think in a wrestling landscape where you had traditionally a lot less people winning championships, it is okay to reach your full potential without reaching the title. So I've also been of the opinion that Jay doesn't need to win the title to go down in history. With all that said, they have the opportunity to tell a pretty unique story here. One that they can actually pay off, unlike some of these other underdog stories that they told in the past. They can actually do something with it. So Eddie, do you have that as like would you have Jay essentially as a transitional champion in that role? Is that kind of how you're seeing it? And again, I think from a if I'm probably holding all the cards, I would prefer Jay to go after Gunther's belt. And there's a storyline there. There really is. I got you, Eddie. I got you. I don't hate that. I don't hate that as a concept. Um, that would be your dream, wouldn't it? E? I think the Gunther story, there's something there. There's obviously a story with Cody because it's Cody and this bloodline stuff has been going on for multiple years, and just then the quest for the title and for it being the top title and the title that Roman couldn't have anymore. There's just tons and tons of storylines. fairly decent storylines with him and Gunther too. Like, at least it does exist. At least it doesn't come out of left field. So you can take that all the way back to the IC days of Jay was giving him these toughest challenges, and I think Gunther in his promos has always kind of noted and always sort of responded back to Jay in that kind of way, giving him a little bit of respect, even though that last feud is built on the fact that you can't take him seriously as a main eventer. Like, that was the storyline. That was the storyline that was set up for the Saturday night's main event feud. I do the problem though that I do have with it, though, more broadly, is, in one sense I get it, because you win the Royal Rumble to main event WrestleMania. That's wrestling for 28 or 25 years, I guess we have had that construct. But the way the Royal Rumble match itself is put together, there's nothing in that match, unless you are just the giant guy who's throwing everyone over and just looking so dominant. There's nothing in that match that implies you're actually like much better at wrestling than everyone else, and therefore you deserve that title shot at a WrestleMania. And that's where I think it gets really difficult with people like Jay, that you have to build into that spot, because it was clean on Saturday night's main event. Like, it was clean as day. Jey Uso is not good enough in kayfabe to beat Gunther. Now, he's been given another chance. Is he not good enough to beat Gunther, but then suddenly good enough to beat Cody? Does that make any sense? Would you want that? Jay against Cody, though, here's the thing about that. I know a lot of people will want Jay against Cody. Do you really see Jay winning that match against Cody? Like, honestly, you might want to see that, but do you see that? That's my question to you guys in the chat. Do you see that happening? I know you might want to see that happening. Do you see it happening? You don't, Michael? Yeah, that's my thing with that side of it too. Where put him against Gunther, and I can see that happening, and that would be a huge win. Again, Cody would be a bigger win, but do you want to do that? I just think it's a. Do you see, if Jay were to face Cody, would you see him beating Cody? Is what I'm asking. Title versus career, where Jay would put it all on the line. Like, he can't do this, he's got nothing. That's what you got, Jay. So you've got him beating Cody when Vince publicly apologizes to Enzo. I have not thought about Enzo in so damn long. Why have I saw Enzo on my timeline the last couple of days? What's going on with Enzo? Is there Enzo news? I will say something about Cody. So tonight, I was watching the show with somebody who had never watched much wrestling before in their entire lives. We'll refer to her as the muscle mark, because most of her comments on the night revolved around the appearance of many of the male wrestlers. Not like my great analysis on appearance earlier. That was like 5-star award-winning podcast kind of analysis. I'm getting all kinds of other analysis here from the muscle mark here. He's wrestling, I guess, in ads for his appearance. So apparently, from my anecdotal evidence, I think Cody Rhodes is the perma champion. Cody Rhodes should never lose his title. Cody should beat everyone. Nobody should ever mess with Cody's face. Nobody should ever mess with Cody's title reign. Cody Rhodes really stuck out, according to the muscle mark. Cody's pants stuck out. And Cody hanging on the belt on the ladder was reminiscent of the No Strings Attached video from NSYNC. So definitely also the demographic that Cody would be trying to hit. Another one that someone else that stood out to the muscle mark, not necessarily for his muscles, but just for his overall appearance, would be Braun Breaker. And that doesn't surprise me as well. That's one thing I wanted to ask the infamous muscle mark of who stands out to not even a casual, below a casual, someone who does not watch wrestling, who's never seen it. And the person that caught her attention was Braun Breaker. Now, and she had noted there was been exposure to Braun Breaker. So that is interesting of note. Also had comments on Roman Reigns and his grand appearance. Thought AJ Styles looked like an 80s power metal guy. AJ Styles not even cool enough to be an 80s power metal guy. And that Logan Paul looked like the bad guy from the Karate Kid, which he totally does. So Mr. Jackson on Twitter notes that his wife is a casual fan and she loves Breaker. So shout out Mr. Jackson for getting married. Shout out for wrestling fans that are married. There's like 5 of you guys. So good for you. Just kidding. Just kidding. I'm sure all your girlfriends are real. Breaker stands out though, doesn't he? Like, I don't know why I've got such a thing for Breaker too. There's something, you don't have to explain what wrestling is when you see Braun Breaker, right? You know, that guy looks like he can kick people's asses and he's going to throw people around and he looks like it's fun. It looks like whatever he's involved in, like, again, it's almost a cliche of pro wrestling, but he's young enough that he doesn't look so ridiculous in doing it. I just think Braun, I don't know if he's got it all necessarily, but there's so much I think you could be attracted to him. So Mr. Jackson is old. I don't think they're ever going to give him the name Steiner. Yeah, so in terms of physical appearance being a non-hereditary, if Braun Breaker is attractive, I don't think he inherited much from the guy whose nickname is literally the dog-faced gremlin. Maybe from Uncle Scott. I don't know. She also loves Gunther. Physically impressive. Gunther is physically impressive. Don't know where he fits on the. I see. That's where you lose me. I don't know if Gunther's. I'm sure there's. I mean, Gunther's got to have some. Gunther's got a female contingent, right? Like these people that just like self-discipline all the time. Definitely, that's the Gunther fan base. That's a really good question, Austin. That's a great question. What the hell was the point of that? Like, why does he just come and admire Cody every now and then? My thing's got to be right there, Austin, is that they thought maybe he was, or he thought maybe he was in the mix, and as things got closer, he realized that it wasn't. We might have something. We might have some progress here on the show. Yeah, there's been tons of comments on the men's appearances tonight. Yes, very much so. Saturday nights. Gunther is married. Good for him. Yeah, Gunther slays. Then he would do so. Should they? No, let's get Steiner math. We don't want Steiner math. So I was trying to mess up something with some Steiner math the other day, guys. So I was putting in some Steiner math into Chat GPT in a triple threat. I wanted to have Braun cutting the promo on Sheamus and other people, and it just didn't work out for me. I mean, my guy Mike McDaniel uses fullbacks all the time. Their interactions at that Raw too were so weird. That's some negative feedback on Gunther. I'm getting here in other chats as well. There is Earl. There is no way that happened. I'm going to check that. And if we have to flip into being an NBA podcast, I really hope we don't have to, but there's no way that happened. I'm going to check up on non-wrestling news. Oh, look at that. There's RVD in The Godfather and Rick Steiner, and they're probably high as hell. Good for them. It was good. Oh, you're not. This is a real thing. Holy hell! So this is Shams and like breaking NBA news here on the wrestling podcast. The Mavericks are trading Luka, Maxi Kleber, and Markieff Morris for AD. Jeez, I literally have to shut this off and like go into my own YouTube channel and do a basketball pod. Luka and LeBron as a team. It's almost as shocking as Jey Uso winning the Royal Rumble. No, Earl, I thought you were trolling. Oh, let me see your take here. I'm stunned by that NBA news. Good God. I have to text someone about that. I can't believe Luka got traded to the Lakers. What planet is this? Okay, let's get back to Austin's thing here. God help the sports talk shows next week. God help us all. So Austin's thing here. I had a crazy thought, but hear me out. I thought Roman was going to win the Rumble match, and then The Rock used his final boss power to make it. That wouldn't have been outside the realm of possibilities, and I think a lot of people had similar suggestions to that. What kind of fire sale are they involved in, Eddie? For real. But I don't love the idea of the super exertion of the final boss power in that kind of way, because I think it does take the rest of the canon and just trying to kind of craps all over it. Yeah, and the thing with AD, and I'll say this intimately as a Laker fan, is it's just not every night with him. And so like there's nights where he's better than LeBron, but like LeBron shouldn't have had to still be the best player at age 40 on his team. Let's scan for any more news, and then we might go ahead and get on out of here, unless you guys have other things to talk about. I've talked for 2 hours straight. How are you guys not sick of hearing me? There's almost about 10,000 of you guys on there. Yeah, Eddie, there's something about, unless it's 2011 and David Stern is running the Hornets, I really don't think that the NBA is going to block Luka Doncic and LeBron James from being on the same team. I just don't see that happening anytime soon. So all I've heard about for the last 3 weeks, or really for the last 2 years, is how the NBA is, and this is not people talking crap. It's on a decline in terms of viewership and interest. I think it's no secret of the ball sports. It's definitely my favorite. But they're struggling right now. They're struggling for a variety of reasons. So I don't think they will pass up the opportunity for their most visible team to have the biggest legend in the game teamed up with the best offensive player currently in the game. And the dysfunction and stuff that will yield, I think, is must-see television. But if you're Trips, you got to be pissed, because your headlines just got stolen. Jey Uso just got moved off the front page for people that are clicking on things. If you're competing with sports and wrestling, Jey Uso just kind of got moved off the front page, which that sucks, but it is what it is. The whole kickoff Rumble and Rumble along with Kick-Ass watch along. Shoot, man. Man, I think you just live for live streams, man. You live for live streams. It's good to have you around. All right, guys, we are at the 2 hour mark. I think I'm going to go ahead and sign off. I think I'll have one more of these on my own comfortably as I kick back. This was a whole lot of fun for 2 hours, guys. There was almost 10,000 of you guys that stopped by, which is amazing. We have a lot to digest still. We'll talk about the Super Bowl this week. I'll definitely make Super Bowl predictions. Kyrie needs to cuss out David. Yeah, I'm sure they'll have a lot of intellectual conversations. We're not going to have any more intellectual conversations on this show for this night. We had plenty tonight. We'll go ahead and I'm going to sign off there. So, if you want to talk to me again, though, for perhaps a slightly shorter conversation, I am 99.9% positive that we will go ahead and have a whole lot of discussion Monday night after Raw. What do you say? Sounds good to me too. See you guys Monday night. Blue World Order.